The blue-skinned woman stood by the viewport, her four-fingered hand pressed against the clear barrier. Beyond it, the blue-green planet turned slowly. Earth. So small, yet the reports about its people were troubling. "Ambassador Valacreen?" A voice called from behind her. "The humans are ready to receive you." Vala turned, her silver eyes blinking twice. "Very well." She smoothed the front of her formal robe. The fabric shimmered like liquid metal in the light. The Azuri Collective had sent her to judge if humans would make good allies. The expanding Draxid Empire threatened many worlds, and the Collective needed help. But humans? They were so new to space travel, so primitive compared to the other races in the galaxy. Vala had studied their history during the journey to Earth. It troubled her deeply. These humans, she had told Captain Zinn before boarding the shuttle, they spend so much time fighting each other, over resources, beliefs, even small patches of land. Is this really the kind of species we want as allies? Captain, Zinn had simply shrugged his narrow shoulders. The High Council believes their unique approach to conflict might be useful against the Draxid. Unique. That was a gentle way to describe the brutality she had seen in the historical records. The shuttle ride to Earth was smooth and quick. They landed at a place called the International Spaceport, built specifically for off-world visitors. Vala felt the slight change in gravity as she stepped onto Earth for the first time. The air smelled different too, rich with unfamiliar scents. A small group waited to greet her. Most wore the dark blue uniforms of Earth's United Defense Force. One woman stepped forward. She had copper-colored hair cut short above her shoulders and stood straighter than the others. "Ambassador Valacreen," the woman said with a slight bow. "I'm Lieutenant Olivia Harlow. Welcome to Earth." Vala returned the bow, noticing how the human did not attempt the traditional Azuri greeting. Either she didn't know it, or she chose to use human customs. Interesting. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I look forward to learning about your world. I've been assigned as your liaison during your stay," Olivia explained as they walked through the spaceport. "I'll help you understand our military capabilities and how we might assist against the Draxid threat." Vala noticed how directly the humans spoke about military matters. Among the Azuri, such directness would be considered rude. They would spend days on polite conversation before mentioning anything about war or fighting. "Your people move quickly to the heart of matters," Vala observed. Olivia smiled slightly. "We've learned that time is often in short supply, Ambassador." The next 3 days were filled with meetings, presentations, and tours of military facilities. Vala watched training exercises with growing unease. The humans fought with surprising intensity, even in practice. Their tactics weren't as advanced as Azuri methods, but they showed creativity that was unexpected. On the 4th day, Olivia took her to observe a naval training exercise in the Pacific Ocean. "Why do you maintain water-based ships?" Vala asked as they watched from a viewing platform. "Surely they're obsolete compared to your aircraft and spacecraft." "Different tools for different jobs," Olivia replied. "We don't abandon useful technology just because we have something newer." Vala considered this. The Azuri typically retired older technology as soon as newer versions were available. The idea of keeping and maintaining multiple generations of weapons was strange. Later that day, they sat in a meeting room with Admiral Catherine Walsh, a human with silver hair and deep lines around her eyes. She spoke about Earth's defensive strategies with confidence and clarity. "The truth is, Ambassador," Admiral Walsh said, "we know our technology doesn't match what's out there in the galaxy. We're playing catch-up, but what we lack in advanced tech, we make up for in adaptability." "Adaptability," Vala repeated. "Can you explain?" "Humans thrive under pressure," the Admiral said. "We perform best when challenged. History shows that our greatest innovations come during our most difficult times." Vala thought about the human wars she had studied. The Admiral was right. Humans seemed to advance rapidly during conflicts. It was both impressive and disturbing. That night, Vala recorded her private thoughts for the Azuri High Council. "The humans approach warfare differently than any species I've encountered," she said to the recording device. "They train constantly for all possible scenarios, They maintain old weapons alongside new ones. They seem to enjoy the challenge of finding new ways to fight. I'm not certain if this makes them ideal allies or extremely dangerous. She paused, considering her next words carefully. There is something else. When I watch their military exercises, I sense a restraint, as if they're holding back. I wonder what would happen if that restraint were removed. The next morning, alarms blared throughout the military base. Olivia rushed to Vala's quarters, her face tense. A Draxid scout ship has entered Earth's solar system, she explained quickly. It's approaching Mars orbit. We need to move you to a secure location. Vala followed Olivia to a command center buried deep underground. Screens showed the positions of Earth ships and the approaching Draxid vessel. They're testing our response time, Admiral Walsh said as they entered. Seeing how quickly we react to a border violation, Vala watched as the humans coordinated their response. They positioned their ships to intercept the Draxid but kept a careful distance. Not threatening but clearly marking their territory. You're not attacking, Vala observed. Not unless we have to, Olivia replied. This isn't war yet, just a test of boundaries. The Draxid ship hovered at the edge of Mars orbit for 20 minutes, then turned and left the solar system. The humans tracked it until it was well beyond Pluto. Later, Vala overheard two officers discussing the incident. We could have taken it, one said. Shown them we're not to be messed with. And start a war before we're ready? The other replied. The Admiral made the right call. Vala slipped away, thoughtful. The humans had shown restraint but also confidence. They hadn't reacted from fear but from calculation. That night, she sent another message to the High Council. I've witnessed something unexpected today, she said. The humans are capable of both aggression and restraint. They understand the difference between showing strength and provoking unnecessary conflict. She paused. They may be more sophisticated warriors than we initially believed. In her private quarters, Vala looked out at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Draxid Empire was expanding, consuming world after world. The Azuri needed allies who understood war. And perhaps, Vala thought as she watched the stars, they had found them on this small blue planet. But she couldn't shake the feeling that if humans ever fully committed to war, the galaxy itself would tremble. She began to type a new report. Preliminary assessment of human military capability. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. The truth was becoming clear, but it wasn't what she had expected to find. Humans weren't just potential allies against the Draxid. They were something far more interesting and far more frightening. 3 months passed since Valkyrie arrived on Earth. The blue-skinned diplomat had settled into a routine. Each morning, she met with Lieutenant Olivia Harlow to discuss the day's activities. Each evening, she sent reports back to the Azuri collective. Today was different. Vala sat in her quarters, staring at the data on her screen. The information had come from one of the Azuri spy satellites positioned at the edge of Earth's solar system. It had picked up strange signals, encrypted messages passing between a location on Earth and a Draxid relay station. Someone on Earth was talking to the enemy. Vala paced the room, her silver eyes narrowed in thought. Should she tell the humans? The Azuri had not shared the existence of their spy satellites. Revealing this information would expose their secret surveillance. But if the Draxid had infiltrated Earth's defense networks, the consequences could be devastating. A soft chime, announced a visitor. Vala quickly closed the files on her screen before opening the door. Olivia stood there, her copper hair slightly messy, as if she'd been running her hands through it. Lieutenant? Vala said with surprise. Our meeting isn't scheduled for another hour. This couldn't wait, Olivia replied. Her voice was tight with tension. Our security team detected unusual transmissions leaving Earth. We think the Draxid may have spies here. Vala blinked slowly. The humans had discovered this on their own. I was about to contact you about the same issue, Vala admitted. She gestured to her computer. Our monitoring systems detected similar communications. Olivia's eyebrows rose. Your monitoring systems? In our solar system? A precautionary measure, Vala said carefully. The collective monitors all potential ally territories. A flash of anger crossed Olivia's face, then disappeared. We'll discuss that later. Right now, we need to work together on this threat. Within hours, Vala found herself in a secure underground facility. Admiral Walsh was there, along with several high-ranking military officers and intelligence specialists. Ambassador, Walsh said, her voice crisp. Lieutenant Harlow tells me your people have data on these transmissions. We need everything you can share. Vala hesitated only briefly before nodding. The collective authorizes me to share this intelligence in the interest of mutual security. She connected her device to the human computers and transferred the Azuri data. A young woman with dark skin and quick hands immediately began working with the information. Her name tag read Reed. Samantha Reed is our best systems engineer, Olivia explained. If anyone can make sense of these transmissions, it's her. Samantha worked quickly, her fingers flying across multiple screens. The encryption is unlike anything I've seen before, she muttered. But there are patterns. Vala moved to stand beside her. May I? Samantha nodded, and Vala began typing commands. Her four-fingered hands moved with practiced efficiency. This is a Draxid military-grade encryption, Vala explained. The collective has encountered it before. Together, the human and the alien worked to decode the messages. It took hours, but finally, patterns emerged from the seemingly random data. It looks like they've compromised 3 of your defense network nodes, Vala said, pointing to locations on a global map. From there, they could potentially access your early warning systems, weapons platforms, and command communications. Admiral, Walsh's face grew grim. How long have they had access? Based on the transmission patterns, Samantha said, looking at her screens, at least 6 weeks. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For 6 weeks, the Draxid had been watching, learning, and waiting. We need to remove them from our systems without letting them know we've discovered them, Admiral Walsh said finally. And we need to feed them false information. A counterintelligence operation, Olivia suggested. We can use this to our advantage. Vala watched as the humans quickly organized themselves into teams, each with specific objectives. There was no panic, only focused determination. It was impressive. Over the next few days, Vala worked closely with Samantha and a team of human engineers. The Azuri diplomat shared advanced technology that her people normally kept secret. Quantum communication devices and cloaking systems that could hide electronic signatures. To Vala's surprise, the humans not only quickly understood these technologies, but began suggesting improvements. If we combine your quantum entanglement communicator with our frequency hopping systems, Samantha explained one evening, sketching a design on a tablet, we could create a hybrid that neither the Azuri nor humans have used before. The Draxid wouldn't have any way to detect it. Vala stared at the design. It was brilliant and simple, something the Azuri scientists, with all their advanced knowledge, hadn't considered. This could work, she admitted, but it would require sharing more of our technology than I'm authorized to reveal. Samantha looked at her with steady eyes. Ambassador, if the Draxid launch a full attack, neither of our species will benefit from keeping secrets from each other. That night, Vala sent a secure message to the Azuri High Council, requesting permission to share more technology with the humans. While waiting for a response, she found herself in the base's archives, reviewing historical records of Earth's wars. The scale shocked her. Millions had died in conflicts that spanned entire continents. Weapons of terrifying power had been developed and deployed, and each war seemed to drive rapid advancement in human technology and tactics. When Admiral Walsh found her there, Vala was studying the events of something called World War II. Troubling reading, isn't it? The Admiral said, noting the files, open on Vala's screen. Your species fought itself with such intensity, Vala replied. Over ideologies and resources and power. Admiral Walsh nodded, her face solemn. Our history is full of darkness, but it also taught us valuable lessons. What lessons could justify such destruction? Vala asked. That unity is stronger than division. That tyranny must be opposed, no matter the cost. And that wars are won not just with superior weapons but with innovation, determination, and sacrifice. Vala considered this. The Draxid believe only in conquest through overwhelming force. They do not adapt or innovate. They simply deploy more ships, more soldiers, more weapons until their enemy is crushed. Then they've never faced an enemy, like humanity, Walsh said quietly. The next day, a response came from the Azuri High Council. They authorized Vala to share the requested technology, with one condition. She was to evaluate and report on how the humans used it. In her private quarters, Vala recorded a message that she didn't include in her official report. The humans learn and adapt faster than any species I've encountered. They took our quantum communications technology and within days, improved upon designs our scientists spent decades perfecting. But what truly concerns me is how they instantly view every technology through the lens of warfare. Not just how to use it, but how to weaponize it, how to defend against it, how to counter it if it were used against them. They think in layers of strategy that the collective's military planners would never consider. She paused, choosing her words carefully. If the Draxid are testing humanity before a full invasion, they may have made a fatal miscalculation. These humans fought among themselves with a ferocity that would terrify even the Draxid. If they ever unite their war-making potential toward a common enemy, the galaxy will tremble. The attack came without warning. Alarms blared throughout the military base as Vala rushed to the command center. Inside, chaos reigned. Officers shouted orders while screens displayed a massive Draxid battle group approaching the Azuri research outpost near Jupiter. They hit us with everything they had, a communications officer reported. The research station is reporting heavy damage and multiple breaches. They're requesting immediate assistance. Admiral Walsh stood at the center of the room, her face grim but composed. How many Draxid ships? At least 15 warships and twice as many fighter craft, someone reported. Vala felt her heart sink. The entire Earth fleet consisted of only 7 space-worthy combat vessels. The Azuri had 3 ships in the solar system. They were hopelessly outnumbered. The station has fallen, a voice announced. The room fell silent. The Draxid have control of the research outpost. They're downloading the data cores. The wormhole research, Vala whispered. Her silver eyes widened with horror. The outpost had been working on stabilizing artificial wormholes, technology that could revolutionize interstellar travel. In Draxid hands, it could allow them to strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Admiral Walsh turned to her officers. Mobilize our orbital defense platforms. Contact the lunar base and have them prepare for possible attack. Lieutenant Harlow, coordinate with the Azuri vessels in our system. Admiral, Vala said, I've sent an emergency request to the collective. Reinforcements should arrive within 48 hours. We don't have 48 hours, Walsh replied. If the Draxid secure that wormhole data and leave the system, they'll be unstoppable. The room fell silent again as everyone realized the truth of her words. Earth had never faced an alien attack. The Azuri reinforcements would arrive too late. We need to retake the station, Olivia said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. Not with a frontal assault. They'd expect that. We send in a small strike team while the main fleet executes a feigned retreat. With respect, Lieutenant, Vala said, the Draxid outnumber us 3-1. Even a small team would be detected and eliminated before they could reach the central data core. A woman stepped forward. Her uniform identified her as Tactical Officer Diane Miller. The Draxid expect us to respond according to standard military doctrine. Either we retreat entirely, or we launch a full counterattack. Exactly, Olivia nodded. They don't expect a third option. Admiral Walsh studied the tactical displays, then looked at Olivia. Assemble your team, Lieutenant. You have 2 hours to prepare. As the command center erupted into activity, Vala followed Olivia into a smaller planning room. This is suicide, the Azuri diplomat said bluntly. The Draxid will detect any approaching vessels. Not if we use your cloaking technology, Olivia replied. She activated a holographic display showing the research station. And not if we don't use a vessel at all. Vala stared at her. What do you mean? Spacesuits, Olivia explained. Individual propulsion units. No ship signature to detect. We approach from the debris field created during the initial attack. Like space debris? Floating wreckage? Vala was incredulous. The radiation alone would kill you before you reached the station. Not with the shielding Samantha developed by combining your quantum field technology with our radiation dampeners. Olivia looked at her with steady eyes. It can work, Ambassador. 2 hours later, Vala watched from the command center as Olivia's team of 6 prepared for their mission. Each wore a specially modified spacesuit with Azuri cloaking technology, integrated into the fabric. They would launch from Earth's closest orbital platform and use the chaos of the ongoing space battle as cover. The main fleet will appear to be retreating, Admiral Walsh explained, as they watched the preparations. Drawing the Draxid ships away from the station, that should give Lieutenant Harlow's team their window. And if they're discovered? Vala asked quietly. Walsh's face hardened. Then they'll complete the mission by any means necessary. The operation began. Earth's small fleet engaged the outer Draxid ships, then began a fighting retreat, drawing the enemy vessels away from the research station. Olivia's team launched, 6 tiny figures barely visible against the darkness of space, using debris and wreckage as cover. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. The team reached the station undetected and gained entry through a damaged airlock. Vala watched the life signs of each team member on a special monitor, her 4-fingered hands clasped tightly together. Then everything went wrong. They've been detected, a communications officer shouted. Draxid internal security is converging on their position. Vala felt her heart's race as she watched the monitor. The human life signs were moving rapidly now, no longer heading toward the data core but spreading throughout the station. What are they doing? She asked. They're moving away from the objective. Admiral Walsh's eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical display. They're adapting. Over the next hour, Vala watched in amazement as the human team, cut off from retreat and facing superior forces, did the unthinkable. Instead of surrendering or dying in a futile charge, they used the station itself as a weapon. They vented atmosphere from sections containing Draxid troops. They overloaded power conduits to create barriers of electrical discharge. They reprogrammed maintenance robots to disrupt Draxid communications, and they set traps that decimated the boarding parties sent to capture them. How are they doing this? Vala whispered, watching as the 6 humans systematically took control of key station systems. They're special forces, Walsh replied. Trained to adapt to any situation, use any resource, overcome any obstacle, but they're still outnumbered 20-1. Numbers aren't everything in warfare, Ambassador. 3 hours after being discovered, Olivia's voice crackled over the communications system. Her breathing was heavy and sounds of combat could be heard in the background. Admiral, we've secured the data core and deleted the wormhole research. The Draxid won't get what they came for. Walsh leaned forward. Casualties? 2 wounded, none critical. We've also captured 3 Draxid officers. Vala's silver eyes widened in shock. Not only had the humans survived, but they'd taken prisoners. We're detecting Azuri ships entering the system, a sensor officer announced. The reinforcements have arrived. 12 hours later, the combined human and Azuri forces had driven the Draxid from the Jupiter outpost. The enemy retreated from the solar system, leaving behind damaged ships and the 3 captured officers. In the debriefing room, Vala watched as Admiral Walsh and her staff questioned the Draxid prisoners. The humans showed no anger, no desire for revenge. They were methodical, extracting information about Draxid ship capabilities, command structures, and battle tactics. Most surprising to Vala was what happened next. As soon as the interrogation was complete, the human engineers began incorporating Draxid technology into their own systems. They studied the enemy weapons, shields, and communication devices, looking for weaknesses to exploit and strengths to adopt. You learn from your Enemies, Olivia explained when she noticed Vala's confusion. Every conflict is a lesson. The Azuri have fought the Draxid for decades, Vala said slowly. Yet we've never thought to adapt their own technology against them. We consider their methods unclean. Olivia shrugged. In war, survival matters more than staying pure. The Draxid won't hesitate to use our own weapons against us. We return the favor. That night, Vala sent a new report to the Azuri High Council. Her hands trembled slightly as she composed it. The humans have demonstrated warfare capabilities that defy conventional analysis, she wrote. A team of 6 infiltrators defeated a Draxid force of over 100. They did not follow any tactical doctrine or strategy known to the collective. Instead, they adapted moment by moment, turning the environment itself into a weapon. Paused, then added, most concerning is their ability to learn from and adapt to enemy technology and tactics almost instantly. Within hours of capturing Draxid equipment, they had begun integrating compatible elements into their own systems. Vala ended her report with a warning. The Draxid have made a grave error in attacking Earth directly. They have awakened something they do not understand. These humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They do not follow rules of engagement or honor codes. They simply win by any means necessary. As she prepared to send the message, Vala added one final thought. I believe we have found the allies we need against the Draxid Empire, but I also fear what humanity might become once fully committed to galactic warfare. 3 months after the battle at Jupiter, the Draxid Empire launched their real attack. It came at dawn, Earth time. 7 massive Draxid battle fleets struck simultaneously across the galaxy. 4 Azuri worlds and 3 human colonies were hit within the same hour. The brutal efficiency of the assault made it clear the earlier skirmishes had been merely tests, ways to measure defensive capabilities. Vala stood in Earth's main command center, watching in horror as reports flooded. In from across the stars, the Azuri Grand Fleet, pride of the collective, had been caught unprepared. 3 of their dreadnoughts were destroyed in the first wave. The human outer colonies, with their limited defenses, fell within days. They planned this all along, Admiral, Walsh said, her voice tight with controlled anger. The attack on the research station, the probing of our defenses, they were gathering intelligence for this moment. Refugees began flooding toward Earth. Civilian ships packed with frightened colonists arrived hourly, bringing tales of Draxid brutality. The aliens showed no mercy, destroying any who resisted and enslaving the rest. The Azuri High Council and Earth's government established a joint war council. Vala found herself in a strange position, no longer just a diplomat, but a crucial link between the 2 species facing extinction. In the council's first meeting, the differences between human and Azuri approaches to warfare became starkly clear. We must concentrate our forces to protect our core worlds, argued Council Member Zin, the Azuri military strategist. Maintain supply lines, preserve our industrial capabilities, and fight only when victory is assured. Admiral Walsh shook her head. That's exactly what the Draxid expect. They'll simply bypass your strongholds and cut your supply lines. We need to hit them where they don't expect it. With what? Zin demanded. Our fleets are outnumbered and outgunned. Then we change the rules, Olivia suggested. She had been promoted to commander after the Jupiter mission. We abandon strategic positions to lure their forces into overextension. We use guerrilla tactics to disrupt their supply chains. We strike high-value targets regardless of the cost. The Azuri representatives looked shocked. You speak of sacrificing worlds of fighting without honor, one exclaimed. I speak of survival, Olivia replied calmly. The Draxid don't care about honor. They care about victory. After days of heated debate, the Azuri High Council reluctantly accepted the human strategy. They had little choice. The Draxid advance continued relentlessly, and conventional tactics had failed to slow them. What followed shocked even Vala, who thought she understood human warfare. Earth's military forces didn't just fight. They transformed. Civilian cargo, ships were hastily converted into carriers for fighter squadrons. Mining operations turned to weapons manufacturing overnight. Retired veterans returned to service, bringing decades of combat experience. The entire human economy reoriented toward war production with astonishing speed. Most surprising to Vala was how the humans adapted Azuri and captured Draxid technology. Earth engineers combined elements from both alien species with their own innovations, creating hybrid weapons and defenses unlike anything seen before. Samantha Reed led a team that developed shields that could absorb energy from Draxid weapons and redirect it back at the attackers. Another group created stealth missiles that could pass through Draxid detection grids unnoticed until the moment of impact. "Your people innovate so quickly," Vala said to Olivia one night as they reviewed battle reports. "The Azuri spend years perfecting a single weapon system. Humans create new ones in weeks." "Necessity," Olivia replied simply. "We don't have the luxury of time." The war expanded across the galaxy. The initial Draxid advance slowed as they encountered unexpected resistance. Human ships, though fewer in number, struck at supply depots and communication relays. Azuri forces, adopting human tactics, launched surprise attacks on Draxid outposts before disappearing back into the void of space. For the first time, the Draxid Empire faced an enemy it couldn't simply overwhelm with superior numbers. 6 months into the war, Admiral Walsh called a special meeting of the War Council. The room was tense as she activated a holographic display showing a massive Draxid command ship. "The Extinction," Walsh said. "The flagship of the Draxid fleet. Our intelligence suggests it carries their supreme commander and coordinates all their forces in this sector. It's also surrounded by 50 destroyer-class vessels and has defenses that could withstand bombardment from our entire combined fleet," Zinn pointed out. "Which is why we won't attack it directly," Walsh replied. She outlined a plan so audacious that Vala could hardly believe her ears. A small team would infiltrate the Draxid security grid, plant a quantum beacon aboard the command ship, and enable a targeted strike that would bypass the vessel's shields. "The strike team would have no way to escape after planting the beacon," Vala said, understanding dawning. "This is a suicide mission." Walsh met her gaze steadily. "Sometimes victory requires sacrifice. You can't ask your people to die like this," Vala protested. "I'm not asking," came a voice from the doorway. Olivia stood there, already dressed in infiltration gear. "I'm volunteering." Vala stared at her in shock. "Olivia, the odds of success are minimal. The odds of survival are 0. "The odds don't matter," Olivia replied. "Only the outcome." Vala found herself alone with Admiral Walsh after the meeting ended. "How can you send her to certain death?" the Azuri diplomat demanded. "She's one of your best officers." "Do you think I want to?" Walsh's voice cracked slightly, showing emotion for the first time since Vala had known her. "But this is war, Ambassador. The ultimate measure of a species is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand at times of challenge and controversy." The mission proceeded as planned. Olivia led a team of 12 volunteers, the best Earth had to offer. They used a captured Draxid shuttle and forged identification codes to approach the massive command ship. For 24 hours, there was no communication from the team. The joint Azuri human fleet waited at the edge of the sector, ready to strike the moment the quantum beacon was activated. Then, a single burst transmission. "Beacon planted. Defenses compromised. Strike now." The combined fleet launched their attack. With the command ship's shield sabotaged from within, their weapons struck true. The massive vessel erupted into flames, taking the Draxid high command with it. The cost was high. All 12 members of the strike team were lost, but the tide of the war had turned. With their command structure in chaos, the Draxid forces became disorganized. The joint human Azuri fleet pressed the advantage, reclaiming lost territory and pushing the enemy back. 2 months later, Vala stood with Admiral Walsh at a memorial service for the fallen. 12 stars had been added to Earth's monument to the dead. Olivia's name was among them. She knew she wouldn't return, Vala said quietly. Yet she went anyway. That's what humans do, Walsh replied. When everything is at stake, we do what must be done. That night, Vala recorded a message for the Azuri High Council. Her voice was thoughtful, almost sad. The humans continue to defy conventional understanding of warfare. Their entire society has transformed to support the war effort. Their technological adaptation exceeds anything in Azuri history. But what truly sets them apart is their willingness to sacrifice. She paused, choosing her words carefully. An Azuri commander would never send their best officer on a suicide mission. Humans not only do this, but their best officers volunteer for such missions. They have a concept they call the greater good. The idea that individual lives, even valuable ones, may be sacrificed if it saves many more. Vala looked out her window at the stars. The Draxid cannot understand this mindset. They value hierarchy and preserve their leaders at all costs. Against an enemy willing to sacrifice their best and brightest for victory, they have no defense. She ended her recording with a sobering thought. If the humans survive this war, the galaxy will never be the same. They are transforming before our eyes into something new, a species forged in the crucible of interstellar conflict. I only hope they remember their humanity when the fighting ends. 18 months after the Draxid Empire launched their all-out attack, the war had transformed completely. What began as a desperate defense had become an unstoppable offensive. The combined human Azuri forces pushed the Draxid back to their core systems, one battle at a time. Vala stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance, watching the stars stream by as they traveled through hyperspace. The ship itself represented the incredible evolution of human warfare capability. 18 months ago, Earth had possessed only basic spacecraft with limited weapons. Now they commanded vessels that combined Azuri precision technology with human innovations in ways neither species could have created alone. We'll reach the Draxid homeworld in 6 hours, Admiral Walsh informed her. The Admiral looked older now, her silver hair thinner, deep lines etched around her eyes from months of difficult decisions. But her gaze remained sharp and determined. I never thought we would reach this point, Vala admitted. When the war began, survival seemed the best we could hope for. Walsh nodded. The Draxid made a fatal error. They judged us by our technology, not by our will to survive. A signal chimed on the communications console. Admiral, a young officer called, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. The Galactic Council, a loose alliance of 17 spacefaring species, had remained neutral throughout the conflict. Their involvement now, as the war approached its climax, was unexpected. Put it through, Walsh ordered. The main screen activated, showing Earth's President Mason. Her face was serious as she explained the situation. Representatives from all council species have gathered to discuss the war. The Draxid have sent a diplomat requesting intervention. Intervention? Walsh's voice was incredulous. They started this war? Yes, the president replied, but now they fear they cannot end it. They're claiming that humans will not stop until they've conquered the entire Draxid Empire. 6 hours later, Vala found herself not in a final battle, but in a massive council chamber on a neutral world. Representatives from 17 species sat in tiered seats surrounding a central speaking area. The Draxid diplomat, a tall insectoid creature with compound eyes and chitinous armor, stood at one podium. Admiral Walsh stood at another, representing humanity alongside Earth's diplomatic team. The Azuri High Council had appointed Vala as their representative, recognizing her unique understanding of both humans and the war situation. The humans must be restrained, the Draxid diplomat clicked in his harsh language, translated by devices throughout the chamber. They have gone beyond defensive actions to a campaign of conquest. You attacked us without provocation, Walsh replied, her voice calm but firm. You destroyed our colonies, killed our people, and threatened our homeworld. We are simply ensuring you cannot do so again. The council moderator, a gaseous being contained in a transparent suit, hovered between them. The council wishes to understand the Draxid motivation for beginning this conflict. All eyes turned to the Draxid representative. After a long moment, he spoke, his mandibles clicking nervously. Our predictive analysis division determined that humanity represented an existential threat to galactic stability. Their historical pattern of rapid military advancement suggested they would eventually become an unstoppable force. We acted preemptively to neutralize this threat. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Draxid had just admitted they attacked, not in response to any hostile act, but because they feared what humans might someday become. During a recess in the proceedings, Vala found herself near a small gathering of representatives from neutral powers. The Draxid diplomat was speaking to them in urgent, hushed tones. Vala moved closer, her sensitive hearing picking up his words. "We can't win. Humans are gods of war." The Draxid's voice trembled with genuine fear. They don't fight to conquer or for resources like rational species. They fight with their entire being, and they never stop learning how to fight better. "Surely you exaggerate," a reptilian diplomat replied skeptically. "In 18 months, the Draxid continued, they advanced their military technology by what should have taken centuries. They combined Azuri precision with their own brutal efficiency. They turned our own weapons against us, and worst of all, they share everything they learn with each other instantly." Vala stepped forward. "Perhaps if you hadn't attacked them, you wouldn't have discovered this." The gathered diplomats turned to her in surprise. "Ambassador Vala Kreen," the Draxid acknowledged her with obvious discomfort. "You've spent the most time among the humans. You know what they're capable of. Tell them." Vala considered her words carefully. "Humans are indeed formidable warriors, but that is not all they are. I have seen their capacity for mercy, for creation, for joy. They fight with extraordinary intensity, yes, but only when threatened." The council reconvened, and after hours of debate, they reached a decision. The Draxid Empire would be allowed to surrender with terms rather than face complete destruction. The terms would be set by the combined Human-Azuri alliance. 2 days later, Vala stood beside Admiral Walsh as the Earth fleet took position around the Draxid homeworld. The planet, a barren red sphere covered in massive hive cities, lay defenseless. Before them, the remaining Draxid ships had withdrawn to protect their Emperor's palace. "We could end their civilization today," Walsh said quietly, looking at the tactical display. The combined fleet had enough firepower to reduce the surface to molten slag. Instead, she opened a channel to the Draxid Emperor. Her terms were direct: complete military disarmament, the return of all conquered territories, and reparations to the worlds they had damaged. But civilian populations would be spared, and the Draxid would be allowed to continue as a species under close supervision. "Why such mercy?" the Draxid Emperor asked, his compound eyes reflecting the light of the communication screen. "Your forces could destroy us completely." "Because that's not who we want to be," Walsh replied simply. "We fought to survive, not to conquer." The Draxid Emperor accepted the terms. After 2 years of brutal conflict, the war was over. In the months that followed, Vala watched with fascination as humans began dismantling their wartime economy. Shipyards that had produced battlecruisers turned to building exploration vessels. Weapons factories converted to manufacturing tools for rebuilding destroyed colonies. Soldiers returned to civilian life with remarkable ease. 1 year after the war's end, Vala stood in the gardens of the newly constructed Galactic Embassy on Earth. She had been appointed as the permanent Azuri ambassador, a position she had accepted with honor. Admiral Walsh, now retired, walked beside her. "What will you tell the collective about us now?" she asked. Vala smiled, a gesture she had adopted from humans. "I will tell them the truth, that humans are the most confusing species in the galaxy. You can fight with unmatched ferocity, yet show mercy at the moment of victory. You can build terrible weapons, then set them aside when they're no longer needed. We're just trying to find our place in the stars," Walsh replied. "This war wasn't what we wanted." "No," Vala agreed. "But it revealed something important about your species, something the Draxid feared but didn't truly understand." "And what's that?" "That humans don't merely adapt to their environment. You transform it. You don't accept limitations, you overcome them. When faced with an impossible situation, you change the rules. In the distance, a new ship was launching, the first joint human-Azuri exploration vessel. Its mission was to map unknown regions of the galaxy, seeking knowledge rather than conquest. That evening, Vala completed her final official report to the Azuri High Council. After 2 years of detailed observations about human military capabilities, her conclusion was simple yet profound. The galaxy must never again force humans to become gods of war. For our sake, and perhaps for theirs, their true strength lies not in their capacity for violence, but in their ability to move beyond it. They fought not for glory or territory, but for the right to determine their own future. She looked out her window at the lights of the city below, at humans going about their peaceful lives. The war had changed them, hardened them in some ways, but it hadn't destroyed what made them unique. In the end, she wrote, the Draxid were both right and wrong about humanity. Humans are indeed gods of war when threatened. But what makes them truly remarkable is their capacity to choose peace when given the chance. As she sent the report, Vala reflected on her own transformation. She had come to Earth expecting to find primitive beings barely worth the collective's attention. Instead, she had discovered a species unlike any other in the galaxy, capable of both terrible destruction and remarkable creation. The Draxid had attacked humanity out of fear of what they might become. In doing so, they had created exactly what they feared most. But they had missed the most important truth about humans. Their greatest strength wasn't their capacity for warfare, but their ability to imagine and build a better future. Vala looked up at the stars, shining brightly in Earth's night sky. Somewhere out there, new civilizations waited to be discovered. And thanks to the strange, contradictory, remarkable humans, they would be met not with weapons, but with outstretched hands. The gods of war had chosen peace, and the galaxy would never be the same.